Okay guys, there's a lot of hype around techno and how to get that perfect techno kick and bass. I work with students all the time and they ask me, how do you get that Sam Paganini kick and bass, or that Len Faki kick drum, or you name it, I've heard it. And the good news is it's actually really, really easy. You just need to know how to do it. So I'm going to demystify exactly how you go about doing this. I'm going to show you 3 really simple methods of getting these kick drums and basses down every time. And we're going to kick off with the method that I call the hybrid method. And that's basically combining the standard kind of reverb kick drum bus send with a bit of synthesized bass, and which I'm going to show you just now. So let's have a listen to what I've got. Okay, it's not straight up the kind of industrial reverby kick, it is a bit of a mix, so that's why I'm showing you. So this is done very, very simply. So all that's in here is a top kick with some high-end distortion through the dynamic tube. I've layered that with a kick which I've pitched down 3 semitones. And, I've done the usual subtractive EQing, getting rid of all the nasty peaks and warming it up with a bit of saturation and dynamic tube. And that's the kick. So you've got your mid main kick and then you've got your high note top line kick. So the things that really kind of make this kick bass what it is this sub and this kicker. So this method is using the reverb bus, which has an EQ, which has the reverb, of course. Once it's come out of the reverb, it has another EQ to make sure it stays in that low end region. Warming it up with some overdrive and sidechaining it to kick. And that's it. I'm going to explain this method explicitly in the next section of this video. So that's enabled on this kicker track. So let's just listen to this. Let's see what we've got. We're using this. I take the filter off and I take the effect rack off. This kind of subby, nice sound. All I've done is I've enabled the filter, kept it very low and controlled, and then I've got some effects. Some warming effect, subtractive EQing again, sidechain as well. So I've sidechained it at the end. Pretty simple, nothing special here at all. And I've got a pattern. That's a kind of standard syncopated techno bass. To give it a bit of swing though guys, which really does help your music along, Live has a really nice selection of groove pull swings. Use them because they really do give things a bit of organic kind of motion and swing, and it sets your music apart. Trust me, the guys that are releasing top tracks on Beatport, they'll be using the same techniques to get the drive and the feel on the music. So I'm using SP1200 16 swing 71. It helps it flow along rather than being kind of staccato and mundane. And it's a very simple pattern, what can I say? Now I've layered this with a sub because this has got a very mid-range, low mid heavy kick, so I've added a sub layer to help it drive along. Now for this it's very simple. You're just using a simple kick pattern, 1, 2, 3, 4, and this is how you do it. So we start from the start, enable oscillator A, choose a sine wave, enable pitch fixed, and then we want a frequency where the kick drum sits higher than this, so we want the sub to be subby, if you like. So it's going to be around 50-60 Hz, so I've got it 50.2, and I have pushed the multiplier up to 1 as well. So that's all I've done for that. And then you jump onto your envelope and you want to push your attack quite far because you've got your punch and your transient from your kick, so you don't need to have that in there. Now the only other thing you need to do is enable the pitch envelope, pitch it down 12 semitones, and then you bring the pitch envelope up to 100%. Because, okay, the reason you're doing that is because you're injecting motion into this pattern, and it really helps it along. So again, some EQing, sidechain, not much else. And I've grouped these all together, the glue compressor and a few other effects, and you arrive at this. Simple as that. That's what I call the hybrid method. So it's combining the standard reverb bus method with a bit of synthesis as well. So the next method is the straight up, full to the floor, industrial kind of reverb send technique. And I have basically made a little rack for you guys to use. And, you know, this rack basically works pretty well. It's going to let you do pretty much what you need to do to get what you want to do, to get what you want, and how you want it to sound, sorry. So I'm going to post a link to this, and you can purchase this thing via that link as well. The good thing about this is I've given you 16 really nice kick drums that I have went away, recorded, processed, and kind of packaged together into this nice, really easy to use plug and play techno kicker. So you're going to have a lot of fun with this, and it's going to help you out a lot. So let me explain how this works. So if we choose number 1, the kick number 1, I'm using sampler here, and there's a different kick on each sampler. So let's just use this one for example. If we go to the A reverb kick send, this is where the rack is, and it's as simple as use all of these parameters to get what you want. Really, that's how you do it. I'm going to explain to you how I made this and kind of science, if you like, behind it. So if we turn the A send down on the track, these are all just kicks. They all sound pretty nice because they've been processed to sound nice, but they sound like kicks. So what you want to do is take this kick and transform it into something that sounds like this. So each kick will have its own kind of tone, character, and you treat it accordingly. So we take this standard kind of distorted kick. Now, on your A channel, I'll open up all the effects that I have. Now these are all Ableton native effects except for the Valhalla room, so if you don't have it, I'd recommend getting it. It's pretty cheap. You can get a demo copy if not. That's what I use in this instance. So this is how the effect chain goes. It's like a journey of creating the reverb techno kick drum. So I'm going to turn each of these things off, and I'll walk you through the journey of how this techno kick drum is made. Okay, so we've got the raw sounds. The first thing that we want to do is we want to select an area of frequency that we want to then go on and treat with reverb and the rest of it. So this area under here. So that's the first thing we do in our effect tune. So this is the signal under here that we're sending through to this reverb. So now I'll enable the reverb. Okay. So this is tricky if you haven't done it before. For me it's quite easy because my ears are kind of tuned to it. I know exactly what I need to do. So what you want to do is don't jump into the presets, just open up Valhalla room. It'll be on its default setting, large room, reverb mode. What you want to do is bring down the high cut. Because we don't want to be processing all of this high stuff because it's a kick, it's a rolling kick bass. The next thing you want to do is tune the reverb, tune the decay so that it suits. Generally I keep it around about here because that just gets a little bit too out of control, and it really makes it quite difficult to mix with the rest of the elements of the track. So don't overcook it, guys. It's an effect, and you know you're using it to complement the kick, so don't overdo it. The depth is essentially the size on any other reverb. Effect. So for those of you who don't have this, still recommend you get it. Just to show you. So the dry wet refers to the mix. Okay. The pre-delay obviously refers to the pre-delay. The decay refers to the decay. The high cut is basically this input processor here. The depth is the size. And you have these other parameters which basically correspond with a lot of the other stuff in here. The main things you want to be looking out for are the diffusing network, because this is where you cap off any of that high energy or that high signal of the kick, the kind of high end kick getting reverberated. But I'm not going to go into it just now. As I say, get this. It's very cheap and it sounds good. So if you want something, a quality reverb, get a quality reverb, invest in a quality reverb, such as this. Okay, now once you've got it kind of sounding right to suit, the next thing you want to do is tackle the pre-delay. Okay, so just have a listen to what happens when I change the pre-delay. You'll hear it change quite drastically. Okay, so some of you might have noticed that the pre-delay does what it says on the tin. It pre-delays when the reverb effect comes into play. So basically, It holds off for, if I was up here, it holds off for 121 milliseconds before going through and being processed by Reverb. That's basically what it does. Now, the classic Reverb boom 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 sound that you get is by adjusting the pre-delay according to the kick. But I've made it easy for you in this because I've found the perfect spot. So you've got the kind of floor to the floor, or you've got that. So you don't need to worry about that by using this. Okay, so now we've got the reverb down. We want to add some warmth, and I've already set it up for you, affecting the low band of frequencies, bringing the tone down just a little bit. So obviously don't overdo it unless you want to. That gives it a nice grip and warmth. Okay, the next thing is this filter delay, and I've called it bounce. So if I turn this knob on, this turns on automatically, and that gives it your classic rolling techno bounce, if you like. Very simple. The next thing is an EQ, which I've called deepen, because you might not want the high end stuff. Most of the time you want the low end. So you can tune that. And the next thing is a glue compressor and a cool little effect I put on. I've got this set ever so slightly, but I've macroed it up to the drive, and that gives you analog, which is basically just crackle and vinyl distortion over the top, but it does help it. And that's it. That's how you get the sounds that you're after. So if I start turning these things up, you should hear let me fire through some of these kicks that I've selected, and you'll get an idea of what you're going to get when you purchase this, if you do. Okay, and finally the third method, which is the method using the operator or using synthesis and synthesizers to create the kind of techno bass. Now this is more for deeper techno, maybe dub techno. Again, very easy to do, and I've got an example of it here. So let's just have a listen to this in context. Okay, so there's a lot of different things happening here, so I'm just going to take everything out, and we're going to leave the kick and the bass. So I've got two basses here because they're the same bass, but they're slightly different in their makeup. So nothing special here. I'm using a kick that I have pitched down the 3 semitones because it's low and thick, and for this type of bass it works quite well. Now, we're using operator. The good news is it takes about 5 minutes to do this. So, first thing I did was I made a simple pattern, which is just a simple kick pattern, nothing more, nothing less, just to get me going. I'll take the EQ off. I've obviously got a sidechain, so I'm using one oscillator, and that's it. Using a sine wave, and we're using some of the same principles that we use to create the sub in the hybrid method. So all that we're doing is making sure the coarse value is down at 0. Okay, we're turning the fine up. Because it gives it a nice harmonic and it works well with the kick. And once you've tuned this, which is basically the oscillator frequency, you'll see this on many vintage plugins, that's it, you've got your sound. As always, we need to go into our envelope. So for this envelope, very, 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 very low sustain, and we're pushing the attack because we want the sound to suck back in itself and give that kind of, it gives it that groove. This is really about working it with the kick, and you'll see what I mean in a minute. So for the shaping, that's all that's happening there. Now, the other thing that we're doing is we are, that's how it sounds, by the way. We're enabling the pitch envelope just to get a bit of movement, just a little bit, just pitching it up 16%. Just gives it a little bit of movement. Again, just creating that bass, creating the movement. And the real magic happens when you enable the LFO and you start working with the LFO, sorry. So what I've done for the LFO in this, I'm using sine as a trigger. I'm syncing it, and I'm pressing the V-trigger button, and I'm using a rate of 1/8, and if I turn up the amount, you'll hear so you can choose the range at which that is oscillating, that is moving, and you can then choose something that suits your kick. For me, 71% is a nice place for that. So I'm going to boost around 74, and if I sidechain this with a kick, it creates a really thick, low pulsing bass, and that will sound good through a lot of sound systems. So that's one way of doing it. Now I've done the same thing again, but this time I'm using instead of using sync, I'm using the low mode, and that gives us a kind of manual rate rather than a pre-quantized rate like an 1/8. And I've tuned this using the same 70% amount and have a listen. So that gives you your kind of old school techno bass. So two different sounds done very, very simply. And there you have it. That's how you get a kind of really thick bass. And you know, if you get creative with the pattern, as I have done here, you get some really funky sounds, and you know, this can really transform your music. Okay, and that is the third and final method. So hopefully across the three of those methods, you have decided which one works best for you. Again, if you have any questions on anything I've covered, post below, and I'll see you guys soon.